Hey everybody, this is Tommy with Outrider USA. Hope you guys are doing great. Today we're going to take a little bit of a dive into batteries and what makes the battery system on the Outrider vehicles unique and what makes it capable of so much range, power, speed, and all the performance that you guys have come to expect from Outrider products. So first I'm going to start off by just giving a little bit of a background in our chassis, real brief. We have two styles of chassis. One without suspension with a central frame member called the transition, and then one that's a monocoque chassis, which means the enclosure is actually a structural member. There's no steel frame spar, and that is what we call the runner chassis for all our full suspension bikes. So here's that runner chassis, and you can see there's no cutout in the middle for the frame member, and then over here is that transition enclosure, which is non-structural. It has that cutout for that steel frame member to go down the middle. So the reason I point that out is with any kind of vehicle, the more energy that you can get on board, the further you can go at a higher rate of speed. And so with gasoline vehicles like we're used to, the gas tank, of course, is where you're storing all your energy. And the more gallons of gas you can put in that tank, the more energy you're carrying along that can push you further down the road. And that's basically what we got going on with Outriders as well. So the early machines and a lot of bikes out there, they've got a frame that allows it to operate as a pedal-powered vehicle without electric drive. And that frame, once you retrofit it for electric drive, an enclosure is made that's non-structural, gets bolted on the frame. And that's how 99% of companies out there are doing it. And the transition platform is built on that kind of classic architecture. The innovation that we did with our full suspension runner bikes was to go to an enclosure that became structural, so you no longer have this big frame member cutting through all of your battery space. So that means all that additional internal volume that we've gained here, we can use to carry more power, more batteries for more range. So what that nets out to with current cell technology is that 2.2 kilowatt hours is about the max, 2.4 kilowatt hours now with the new cells. 2.4 kilowatt hours is a max you're going to carry currently in the transition enclosure with the biggest pack, with all four positions occupied for the packs. 1, 2, 3, 4. And those four quadrants. With the runner platform, the max capacity now is 6 kilowatt hours, 6,000 watt hours, with the four quadrants occupied. So with that kind of architecture of the chassis, that requires us to have two different form factors for batteries. So over here is a half brick pack that we use for the transitions. This is about a 6-pound battery pack. Each one of these is about 605 watt hours. It uses an 18650 cell, very classic cell. Right now using an LG MJ1, which is a 3500 milliamp hour cell. Very high quality 10 amp long distance cell. And then the full brick packs for the runner full suspension bikes, they're using now they're using a 21700 cell. We're using the Samsung 50E cell, which is a 5 amp hour cell. Bit taller, bit fatter than the 18650s, but just the general shape and size of the battery compartments between the transition and our runner full suspension chassis required that we have a narrow pack that's longer that fits in these transition enclosures, and then a wider pack that fits into these runner enclosures. This ends up being a pack that has 12 cells in series and 4 in parallel, and the runner pack is 12 in series and now 7 in parallel. The older packs that were 18650 based had 8 in parallel. The new ones have 7 because we're using a 21700 cell, which is a little larger, a little fatter, and a little longer. So the runner, because of we've designed this thing to fit as much battery power on board as possible, we're able to, like I say, carry 6 kilowatt hours max on this right now, where we have 2.4 kilowatt hours max on this right now. So more than double with the runner. And you can see why with all the additional internal volume. Basically on the runner, from this line here across and down, all of that is battery compartment space that's available for carrying your packs. With the transition pack, basically from this line down, you've got that amount of space, but of course this area is occupied by the frame member, and that's why this will carry a little bit more than 30 to a little more than 40% of the maximum potential power that this can carry. So that's kind of an overview. What matters most with this stuff is, again, how much onboard energy can you carry? With a car, we would measure that in gallons of gas, and we know how much energy is in a gallon of gas. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, 10 times however much energy, I think around 30 kilowatt hours in a single gallon of gas, of which only about 25% of that is accessible with that internal combustion engine, because the rest is wasted as heat. So say for easy math, 10 kilowatt hours in a gallon of gas that's accessible. It's probably a little bit higher than it actually is. With these full brick packs, each of these now is 1.5 kilowatt hours. So with 4 of these, you're going to get 6 kilowatt hours. And if we're being really specific, it ends up being 6,048 watt hours. So 6,000 watt hours is 6 kilowatt hours. So with most e-bikes that are out there now, a single pack is going to be similar in form factor to our transition packs, and they're generally going to be anywhere between 500 watt hours up to about 1,000 watt hours max. 750 watt hours being an average e-bike pack. So one of these transition packs for us is 605 watt hours. So this is going to be pretty comparable to what you'd get in a normal e-bike, one of these packs. However, the transition comes standard with 2 of these packs. So we're running 2 of these in parallel. Not only does that give you double the energy and double the range, but it's also going to tax those cells a lot less than if you're running a single one of these packs. So since that's a 10 amp hour cell, since that is a 10 amp cell and you've got 4 of those in parallel, this pack could handle 40 amps with the cells it's equipped with. With 2 of these in parallel, can handle 80 amps. So if you're running at a normal 20, 30 amp level, this pack with 2 of these is going to barely be breaking a sweat, whereas on a traditional e-bike, you're going to be running those cells a lot harder, they're going to be getting a lot hotter, and heat is the enemy of packs. And so that means you're going to reduce the cycle life of the pack, and also you're not going to get as much range out of the pack as compared with what it's advertised to have. That advertised nameplate watt hour number, say it's 750 watt hours, if you're running at a low rate, you're actually going to access most of that. If you're running it harder, the cells are going to heat up, be less efficient, and you're going to waste this heat. So since we're running 2 of these in parallel, it runs the packs a lot cooler, extends the lifespan, and how much more is that effect amplified as you go to a full brick pack on the runner chassis. These are 10 amp cells also with the 50E cells, 7 of those in parallel, so these are 70 amp capable packs. Of course, if we're running 4 of those in parallel, now that's 280 amps capable. Our most powerful machines right now are going to pull around 120 to 130 amps. So even at full tilt on an Alpha at 5,000 watts and 50 miles an hour, you're going to be running the large packs. If you're equipped with 4 of them, you'll be running them at about half of their maximum potential. So that means that these are going to last a really long time. And as you get larger packs, also you're going to extend the cycle life. And an easy way to think about that is if most packs are rated for about 500 cycles to 80% of their initial capacity. So if you get this pack and it originally has 1,000 watt hours, let's say for easy math, and that 1,000 watt hours takes you 50 miles. Well, after you cycle this pack 500 times, which would be 500 times 50 miles per charge, that'd be 25,000 miles. And so after 25,000 miles, you're going to have 80% of what you had when it was new. So now instead of getting 50 miles per charge, you're going to get 40 miles per charge after you've ridden 25,000 miles. There are other variables that can affect that, like if you're storing it in a hot environment or running in a hot environment, or if you leave it on the charger indefinitely those things are not good for the lifespan of the battery pack or charging below freezing temperatures. But apples to apples, you're going to see about 80% of that capacity after those first 25,000 miles on a pack like this. So if you have 4 of those in parallel, now you're going to have that same effect after 100,000 miles rather than after 25,000 miles. So with a pack like this, a smaller pack, if you're running a single pack in a regular kind of e-bike, and let's say you're getting 50 miles of range on that pack, well, this pack at half the size, you'd be getting 25 miles of range instead of 50 miles of range. So 25 times 500, now it's 12,500 miles you'd expect until you see 80% of your initial capacity. So as you can see, the larger pack you have, the longer lifespan it's going to have. So these larger packs not only are going to last longer just by the nature of the size of the pack, but since you're running them, you're not running them as hard also, that's going to increase the lifespan of the pack even further on top of that. And something that we've done because of the luxury of having these large long distance packs, rather than charging these packs up completely to 4.2 volts to the cell, we charge them up to just below 100%, and that actually even further increases the cycle life of the pack. So there's a lot of side benefits that come from running these larger packs and running them cooler. So even on our transition, there's a real benefit as we're running 2 of these rather than 1 like you would in a typical e-bike. So as you compare this to a regular electric bike, it's pretty staggering when you consider that you can get 6,000 watt hours of capacity on an Alpha, and a typical electric bike you can do 750, and sometimes you'll parallel 2 of those packs and get 1,500. So even if you run double packs on an e-bike, the Alpha is going to have 4 times onboard energy, which means that given the same speed, you're going to go 4 times as far. So that's a significant difference. On top of that, our chargers, something that we've done, and this is getting into charging a little bit, but I think it's very relevant to this video as well. Our chargers on the full suspension machines are integrated into the enclosure, and they're weatherproof, they're sealed, and they're high-speed 1,000 watt chargers. So what that means is after you do deplete your pack, or even if you're just stopping to get lunch, you can get a mile of range back in 2 to 3 minutes with that high-speed charger that's standard and it's built in. And what's fantastic about that is there's quite a vulnerability in the potential for damaging your charger as you're traveling or losing it. That potential is eliminated with this built-in charger, as it's within a metal enclosure and it's totally sealed. So all you got to carry is a simple little cord that you can get at any hardware store to charge the battery. So we've really wanted to make these as robust and as reliable as possible, and we really did a lot of innovations in the battery world and the charging world on our machines to make sure that we exceed the expectations of the demanding American buyer, and for that matter, buyers all around the world. The charging systems are universal, so you can charge them at 240 volts or 110 volts, and of course you can buy whatever kind of cord is going to be the appropriate cord for your charger in your country. So it's also 50 and 60 hertz compatible, so pretty much no matter what you got coming out of the wall, as long as it's AC power, you'll be able to charge with our standard charger. So that is kind of the overview. I know it's a bit technical. A couple other bits that are worth mentioning. Our very early packs had management systems, battery management systems, that were not integrated into the battery, and that was more commonplace 10 years ago in the RC world, where they're using lithium polymer packs and it's left up to the user to manually balance the packs. Well, these days that is not the norm, and BMSs are standard on pretty much every battery for an electric vehicle that's out there. The BMS is kind of what I call granular, so each pack has its own management. It's not dispersed between multiple packs where 4 packs share one. It has management for each pack, so if there's any malfunction on any of the batteries, that pack can check out individually, while the other 3 or 2 or 1 other pack is still able to keep the machine moving down the road. So that's a great element of this system as well, is you've got that redundancy in the batteries. So it's not like an old saddle tank for a truck where you're going to switch from tank 1 to tank 2, but the system is automatic, so you're going to have 4 batteries online all the time if you have a 4-pack machine, and provided there's any kind of issue with a single pack, it will dip out of the system, and the other 3 will run the machine until the issue is remedied on the other pack. That said, it's a super reliable system, very high quality cells and great construction methods, so we've had excellent reliability on these new packs. So the BMS is a top mounted BMS on these full brick packs on the runners, and we have an end mounted BMS that goes in the end of this pack for the half brick packs. All these BMSs have temperature monitoring. They also, of course, have overcurrent, short circuit protection, full balancing for the packs as well. So everything you'd expect from a BMS. But we've also made sure to spec higher rate, lower resistance FETs, which are basically the semiconductor switches in these that allow it to either cut power or to run the machine down the road. Since these are solid state, FETs are kind of a switch that is not a mechanical switch like a relay, but it's a switch that is solid state. So what that means is with a semiconductor like that, under certain conditions it will conduct electricity, and other conditions it will not. With cheaper semiconductors, when they're in their on state, they are not too efficient and they'll create a lot of heat that you got to bleed off and manage. But of course you don't want a heater sitting on the top of your pack. You want that energy going through the system and being put down to the tires. So we've spec'd really nice FETs for these that are very efficient. So with cheaper battery management systems, it's something you'd never know about, but your BMS would be getting very hot under high current use when you're running that machine up a mountain at high power or in the desert, to the point where it can actually, even if your batteries are staying cool enough, just the heat being generated from your BMS and your battery compartment is going to be enough to trigger a shutdown on the battery pack, which is not what you want. So it's very important that you don't have kind of a wall wart sitting on top or on the end of your battery pack, and we've made sure that these BMSs are very high performance and you can run them indefinitely under full load, and they're not going to create any kind of thermal issues in and of themselves. So that's fantastic news for somebody that would expect to be able to point their machine up a mountain and not run into any heat issues as they sustain full throttle for extended periods of time, especially if you're towing. So also a couple other little details. Older packs used an Anderson style connector, 50 amp connector. New packs we're upgrading all of them to XT90 gold plated connectors. So it's a more efficient connection, which means again, you're gonna get more power to the wheels and less of it wasted as heat. So that's standard on all the new runner packs. Aside from that, these half packs weigh 6 pounds. The full brick packs weigh 12 pounds. So with our biggest, baddest battery on the Alpha, it's going to be a 48-pound battery. And that's a lot of battery power, and it's going to get you a long ways down the road. With the new 21700 Samsung cells, this 6 kilowatt hour pack can take you about 100 miles at 30 miles an hour. It's going to take you, it's actually now closer to 150 miles at 30 miles an hour. And it's going to be about 200 miles at 20 miles an hour. It's going to be about 300 miles at 15 miles an hour if you've got the biggest pack on the Alpha. And so that's just an insane amount of range to be able to be getting 200 miles at 20 miles an hour. If you think about that, that's 10 hours of riding at 20 miles an hour. Typically when we're touring, we like to stop every 2 to 3 hours. So if you're making 3 1-hour stops, that means that you've got 13 hours on, out there and riding for the day. So it will absolutely take you all day, dusk to dawn basically, or dawn to dusk, to discharge this pack if you're touring. So, and after that's all said and done, you'll recharge the pack from a standard outlet in about 5 hours with that biggest pack. There are options to upgrade from 1,000 to a 1,500 watt charger, which will decrease that charge time down to around 3.5 to 4 hours. And even faster chargers are possible if you want to really push the limits and try to set some kind of record. So the new Alphas are definitely capable of that. We haven't yet gotten out there to see what the 6 kilowatt hour pack and that fastest charger, just how many miles we can pile on in the day. But I think it would certainly be north of 400 miles. But that's a lot of riding, and most people aren't going to want to ride that kind of distance in a day. Realistically, this is something that you could do 2 days of riding on and then find your charge point with more reasonable mileages, which is a really great cadence for touring. So if you're commuting on these or using it for more everyday kind of use, you're going to be just stunned at how long it will go before it needs to be charged, which is what you want in any vehicle. For commuters, they're often, they probably wouldn't need to charge but once a week for typical kind of commuting. But many will choose to put it on the charger every night regardless, just so if they get that itch to go out and ride long distance and add some miles on at the end of the day, you can do that without worry. So I hope this was really informative for you. If there are any questions that you have, please send us an email to info@outriderusa.com. Of course, you can comment below and ask any questions, or call us at 828-654-7555. And yeah, the batteries on the Outriders are absolutely stunning for what they're capable of. We want you to be able to get on your machine and not have to worry about how far you can go. We just want you to be able to get on and ride like you would for a motorcycle. So we hope this helps. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we thank you guys very much. We appreciate you and hope you all take care. Bye-bye.